counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
I believe we have fought one civil war too many in this country. So those who experience it will run away from it.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying with us. Now to our second topic tonight. The Reserved Seats Bill for Women in Nigeria's national and state legislatures is crucial for sustainable development by promoting gender equality and inclusivity, ultimately leading to more representative and effective governance. Now, by ensuring women's participation in decision-making, the bill can address gender-specific issues and improve overall governance outcomes. Now, the legislation seeks to alter the long-standing narrative of exclusion and underrepresentation that has marred the political landscape by reserving seats for women in the national and state assemblies. And the aim is to dismantle systemic barriers and create a legislature that truly mirrors the nation's rich diversity. It's about justice, strategy, and national prosperity, not charity. Tonight, we'll continue with the discussion on the desirability of the Reserved Seats Bill to Nigeria's sustainable development. But first, let's get to see this report by correspondent Ngozi Teknikyo.
The Reserved Seat Bill aims to increase women's representation in government, promoting inclusive governance and sustainable development. By allocating 37 additional seats exclusively for women in the Senate chamber and the same number at the House of Representatives, the bill seeks to address the significant imbalance or underrepresentation of women in Nigerian politics, especially at the decision-making fora, including the state houses of assembly.
If this scales, that means in one stroke, we have gotten 35% affirmation at the highest level of legislative work in our country. Nigeria will be applauded globally. If we have more women in the House of Rep, more women in the Senate, it will now help us have women in leadership position who can go back and convince their fellow women on the right things to do.
Women understand children, women understand men, women understand the girl child. And a woman will come to the round table with these people like a mother.
The bill's passage will contribute to Nigeria's sustainable development by ensuring that women, who make up nearly 50% of the population, have a voice in the decision-making processes that affect children, youths, women, and the general populace. Furthermore, some women advocates, while applauding the Reserved Seat Bill, say it is crucial to ending insecurity, neonatal and maternal mortality, among others.
Any woman who is able to make secondary education, the chances of that child in that family dying from any of these diseases that bedevel children comes down by 500%. You see the importance of education. And when you talk about education, we're talking about awareness, creating awareness, creating areas of women understanding, giving them skills, knowledge, and ability to think for themselves. It will also look to empower young women to aspire.
With the seats reserved for women, that means that a whole lot of women will come out to support women. And, you know, that would bring a lot of development. It will bring a lot of empowerment. Because really, a woman wants to be able to see other children, other people like her own children. He wants to be able to see that our constituency where she's coming from is being developed so that she will be remembered.
Despite the bill's potential benefits, Nigerian women are advised to address some challenges in order to facilitate the passage of the bill and as well make lasting impacts. The general consensus is that the reserved seat bill is important to promoting women empowerment, leading to sustainable development in Nigeria. Its passage will mark a significant milestone in the country's quest for inclusive governance.
That report by Ngozi Technicu. And joining me now is Honorable Asabe Velita Bashir, Director General, Mariam Babangida National Center for Women Development, and a former member of the National Assembly representing Borno, and as well 2 times Commissioner in Borno State. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Uncle Cyrus. Good evening, viewers.
We are here once again to advance this discussion on why it's essential to have reserved seats for women in the legislatures, both at the National Assembly and in the state assemblies as well. But give us your perspective on this and why this is desirable. What do you make of it?
Yes. Thank you very much, Uncle Cyrus. It is very, very desirable for the government of Nigeria to have reserved seats for women, just to encourage women to be part of governance. It is very unfortunate that we are just beginning to talk about inclusivity. This would have been a thing of the past if we had implemented the 35% affirmative action that was declared during the Beijing conference about 30 years ago. This 30 years ago, by now, we wouldn't have been talking of reserving seats for women. Women, it would have been, naturally would have been, women would have come of age to contest or to find themselves in leadership position naturally, because by now would have been matured. But because of the discrimination against women over time, that is why, and now world over, everywhere in the world over have known the importance of women in governance and its importance in sustainable development. That is why everywhere, everybody is now clamoring for women's inclusion, and Nigeria cannot be different. Today in Nigeria, if you look at the political space or the, we are in democracy. Our democracy now is matured enough, and women constitute, in fact, form the governance, because women, women are the ones that do the voting. We vote people into leadership positions, and we are politically active, and we stand all kinds of pressure during election to make sure that right people are voted for. But unfortunately, when it comes to a woman to be elected into a position, the men do not support us. Therefore, and as the popular saying goes, if you educate a woman, you educate a family, or you educate the nation. Everybody knows that educating or empowering a woman has a multiplier effect. So putting a woman in a leadership position is just, we are just doing ourselves, the nation good, because women are the managers of both the men, children, youth, and all it takes in the population. As we have said, it has been said at the background, women constitute more than 50% of the population. Which government, serious government, would neglect more than 50% of its population? You know?
All right. Well, we are also being joined on this discussion by Dr. Ejiro Joyce Otibe-Buzo, Managing Director, CEO, Emerald International Development Services, who joins us via Zoom. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you very much.
Let me also welcome Yeye Bumi Dikpo Salami, who also joins us via Zoom from Monrovia. She's a development strategist and executive director, Baobab for Women's Human Rights. Let's hear your perspective on this, beginning with Dr. Ejiro Joyce Otibe-Buzo. Let's hear you on the matter of reserving seats for women in the National Assembly and in the state assemblies.
Well, thank you very much. Just like our sister has indicated, I'll first say that it is morally correct. It's a question of justice that when you have almost half of your population as women, they deserve seats at the decision-making table. That is very clear. And because we are dealing with sustainable development, experts have linked women's participation with sustainable development. In fact, as far as the SDGs are concerned, the 17 of them, there is a central one, which is SDG 5, that talks about empowering women and girls everywhere. And one of the indicators for measuring a country's progress towards SDG 5 is the proportion of women in parliament. And on that indicator, Nigeria is doing very poorly. We all know the statistics. In the Senate, out of 109 seats, we have 4 women. One has been suspended because of prevailing circumstances, so we have 3 women now in the midst, out of 109. And then in the House of Representatives, we have 360 seats. We have 16 women. In the previous assembly, we had 13 women, so there's a marginal increase. In the Senate, we had 8 women in the previous assembly. Now we have 4, out of which 1 has been suspended. So we are even retrogressing. Whereas scholars have agreed that without achieving gender equality, there is no way we are achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. These Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, have to do with the welfare of the people. And the welfare of the people is one of the reasons why government exists. It talks about no poverty, it talks about zero hunger, it talks about healthcare, access to water and sanitation, and several other things. And scholars have shown that without achieving SDG 5, which is gender equality, there is no way we are ever going to achieve all of these laudable goals of the SDG. So, first of all, it's a moral right for Nigerian women to demand, to have seats at the table. Secondly, it's also a smart economic choice, because studies have also shown that when women are excluded, the potential they bring to development is also lost by the nation, And so it is important, it is pertinent that we all join forces to demand that women have seats at the table. I don't want to use the word women are given, because I see it as a right of women, as bona fide citizens of Nigeria. And let's not forget the fact that our foremothers fought side by side, our forefathers, to enthrone the democracy that we enjoy today. But constitutionally, from the time elections started in Nigeria in 1922, women have been excluded by law from even participating in politics. They were disenfranchised from beginning, from 1922 all the way to 1950, early 1950s. Women were not allowed by constitution to vote. So you can imagine that long gap. It was only in the early 1950s that women in the southeast and southwest were allowed by constitution to vote. Now, women in the north of Nigeria were not legally allowed to vote by constitution until the 1979 constitution, which sounds to me like yesterday. So the exclusion has been there, and this was legal exclusion. We are not yet even counting exclusion as a result of patriarchy, as a result of violence, as the fact that political parties have been cornered and they have owners who are men who decide who goes in and who does not go in. We have had friends who tried to contest elections who were eminently qualified, but were excluded because of all of these issues. Okay. So I think it's about time. It has become very embarrassing. All our smaller neighbors.
All right. Okay.
All that.
Okay. We'll return to you shortly. But let's go over to Yeye Bumi Dipo Salami, who joins us also via Zoom from Monrovia. And let's also hear your take on this.
Okay, thank you so much for having me again. And thank you to my sisters for setting the historical background. My sister, Dr. Ejire, that just spoke, and the Honorable that spoke earlier. I think we have overflowed this. Even a child in Nigeria knows that women do not have what they should have in terms of their participation, their inclusion, because we talk about participation and we really need to unpack that. When you talk about women's participation, women participate so well in electing men into the offices. Okay, they are the organizers, they are the voters. They will stand for long in the sun, in the rain, under the rain, and they will vote, and they will make sure that their votes count. However, what we don't have, like we all know, is that women do not have enough seats at the table. And that is what the special seats would correct, at least with the special seats that are being proposed now. We are going to have 28% out of 651 that the National Assembly, the membership of the National Assembly will become now. We will have 182 women, in addition to maybe the 4% or the 5% that we've had before now. So the 28% that will be added will now move the needle to maybe 32, 35 ultimately. But I think this is the right step, and I commend the sponsors of the bill for this initiative. It's been a while. It's been decades since we've been clamoring for this. People are working at the community level, at the national level, to ensure that we improve the quality and the quantity of women that we have in politics. And we hope that very soon this bill will be passed. It should be passed. Like, we like the earlier speaker said, it is a moral thing to do. And it is also to move women from being second-class citizens like we feel, because men do not walk in our shoes, so they may not know how we feel. We feel like second-class citizens, but we believe that this is going to correct that feeling, and that very soon women will have cause to laugh, to be happy that we all also are full citizens. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay. We already have a number of tweets coming on this matter, and let's see one or two of them. From Koli Osho says, what are the key barriers that have prevented greater women's political participation? This is always raised all the time. What are those barriers that have, the key barriers that have prevented women from greater participation in the political space?
Yes, like we have said, it has always been the topic of discussion. Majorly you can see from what my sisters have said, as far back as 1992, women were not even allowed to vote. And that has followed us. We now have a bandwagon whereby women are generally suppressed when it comes to political participation. They give all sorts of reasons. Majorly, they attach culture, that women are not allowed to be seen to be working side by side with men, or to be on the same decision table, or to be in governance, whatever. They attach cultural barriers, they attach religious barriers, and all these kind of things. And that has now affected women politically and financially. Women are not even empowered to even come side by side with men to contest elections.
You broke some of those barriers. And how difficult was it? How did you do it? How difficult was it?
I will tell you that my own is a different story altogether, because just like we have been saying, now in the National Assembly, we have some women that have broken the barriers. And during my time, in our days, when I first contested election in 1997, there was nothing like money politics. There was nothing like godfatherism. There was nothing like all these things that count that you must do before you get a nomination. It was very credible. You look for good candidates. I was in the university when I was called upon by my people to come and contest. And money was not counting at all. But now, before you contest and win election, a lot of money has to be put into it, which women don't have that kind of financial strength. And like I said, they used to attach a cultural barrier just for them to just knock out women. Otherwise, no religion says a woman should not be elected. In Saudi Arabia, we have women in parliaments. In Dubai, we have women in parliaments. All these Islamic countries, we have women in parliaments. So we are happy, and we thank God that it is becoming a thing of the past. Our men, our husbands, our children are beginning to see reason why women should be included in governance. And it's a very welcome idea.
Let's go over to Dr. Ejiro Joyce Sutibe Igbuzo on Zoom again. And I'd like to read to you the tweet of one of our viewers here who says, this is Obasi, and it says, how do societal perceptions of women in leadership roles affect the reception and potential impact of this reserved seats bill?
Well, that's a very good intervention there. The fact is that, in fact, when you started asking the questions about the barriers that women face, one of the things I was thinking about is the invisible power of patriarchy. We live in a patriarchal society that celebrates men, that, we are raised to believe that men are, they have legal rights or even cultural rights to be leaders, while women are supposed to be at home, be domesticated. And interestingly, this view is not something that is promoted by men alone. There are also some women who have also been brainwashed, who believe, what's a woman going to do on the floor of the Senate? She should sit back at home and take care of her children. But that is a very backward perspective if you think that a woman who is on the floor of the Senate does not take care of her children. You are highly mistaken, because it just shows that you probably have not related with some of these women. We have related with women in high places who take good care of their children, who create opportunities for their children, who make every arrangement. And we have also seen women who sit at home all day, and before their very eyes, their children fall and break their heads. So it's not a question of you being in the house, for you to then judge a woman who takes care of her children and who does not take care of her children. So the perception that women are not fit for leadership is still prevalent. So to a large extent in some places. And like I said before, it's not just by men, it's also by some women who have come with that mindset. And it's the way we were brought up, it's the way we were raised, And when we raise these issues of women being in leadership, it is like conflicting with some people's perspective of what is right culturally and what is right even religiously. But I forget that even in the prevalent religions in Nigeria, in Christianity and in Islam, we can point to examples of women who have led. I am a Christian, so I know more about the Bible. I can point to Prophetess Deborah, for example, who was a wife, a mother, a warrior, a judge, and if she merited a place, in the holy book, then it means that religion is definitely not against, a woman ruling. So there are all kinds of perspectives. But another thing I want to say, which is also prevalent, is that people think, oh, why reserve seats for women? It's supposed to be by merit, and all of that. One of the things I always like to say when we have discussions like this is the fact that it should please be noted that women's exclusion from political positions is not a measure of their qualification. Nigeria has one of the most qualified women in the world. A Nigerian woman from the north is the Deputy Secretary General of the UN, and we have not heard any complaints about her work. She even worked in Nigeria as a minister before going to the UN. Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala is a Nigerian woman, and she's heading WTO. The last time her election came around, she was returned unopposed. And we have several women making waves within the country, too many to mention. So it's not a lack of qualification. Nigeria has, some of the most qualified persons in the world, women in the world. And we deserve a seat at the table. And all of those mindsets about women not being able to lead, and people even pointing to one or two examples of where failures have taken place. When it's a woman that fails at something, it's great news. Compared to the number of men that have also failed in those places, nobody thinks about that. As far as it's a woman is judged, how do I put it? Overjudged. And when it comes to women leading, people want to scrutinize your qualification and all that. But I'm saying that even affirmative action, and by the way, we have a national gender policy. People still think the gender policy codes provides for 35% affirmative action. That was the previous one. The current national gender policy actually provides for 50-50 affirmative action, and it was adopted by the president's cabinet during President Buhari's time. So it's a national document, it's a valid document that is supposed to drive the way we do things. Even the renewed hope agenda of the current president provides for 35% affirmative action for women. But how do these policies and promises translate to action? This is where the problem lies. And if I have a little bit more time, I will just say that recently, in February 2025, the Nigerian Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, which is a think tank of the National Assembly, developed a NAS-GESI policy, Gender Equality and Social Inclusion Policy, was validated in February, and there was commitment by members of the National Assembly to take this forward. But of course, it's because of the things that are going on in the country right now, and the fact that 2 years into their election, people are already scrambling for how they will come back in 2027. I don't know how many people are looking at that strategy. But we have these documents in place. How do we translate them to action? Perception is one thing. It does not help anybody's case. But like I always say, what advocacy and lobbying has failed to achieve in the last 100+ years, one law, we correct it. And that is where the reserve seat bill comes in. It's a temporary special measure. Several countries have used it. Out of 54 countries assessed in sub-Saharan Africa, 41 of them are using one form of special measure or another. So this is not a new thing. Rwanda got to where it is because of the 30% quota, in its laws. So what we're asking for is not something that has not been done before. Several countries are doing it. And that's the only way we can correct the wrongs. So see this as a form of reparation. Women were excluded by law from participating since 1922. And then now that the Constitution is open and allows it, we are saying, by way of reparations, correcting the long years of marginalization, let this bill pass. And there are provisions in the bill that says it's for 4 election cycles, and also it's a temporary special measure, by which time women will probably be on this level playing field with men to contest fair and square, to get their positions. Thank you very much. Let me stop there for now.
All right, and at this point, we'll take a short break. We'll take this message, and we'll be back.
Discussion is going on about elective and appointive positions in the ongoing constitutional reforms. Are you wondering what this is about?
It is very simple. Gender quota is a policy that ensures a fair representation of both men and women in leadership and governance spaces.
It is designed to create a more balanced and inclusive environment by setting a minimum threshold for either gender, recognizing that both men and women bring valuable perspectives to decision making.
For example, this is in place in Rwanda, where women make up 61% of the parliament, and in Namibia, where women make up 46.2%.
In Nigeria, without a gender quota, women in parliament are 4.7%.
With a gender quota,
we can change this narrative.
Join the movement.
All right, let's take it from where Dr. Ejiro Joyce Otive Igbuzo left off and go to Yebumi Dipo Salami. And the intent has been there, a policy has been there, but nothing has happened. And so it's always been like this, and it's not even just on matters bordering on gender equality. So there's a policy in place, but even the administrations who enunciate such policies do not carry them out. So what's wrong with the political class?
Well, yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. There's something wrong with the political class. And I think what's wrong is that there's no political will.
Yes.
The political class, they do really not care about Nigeria. Because I've said this over and over again, and everybody else says it. When we bring women to the table, it's not about the women. It's not because we want to do women a favor. It's because we care about Nigeria, and we know what women bring to the table. We know that when women are at the table, we will have different perspectives. We know that women will focus on what is really important because we have been socialized, we have been trained to do that. But you know, we have national laws, we have international treaties that we have signed on to, but because the men, and I will say categorically here that I'm talking about the men, if the men who are in governance, who are in office, year in, year out, if they decide to do right by Nigeria, women will be at the table. We wouldn't have even waited till this long to bring up the bill for the special seats, because you know that before now, it's been like a men's club. Even up till now, it's a men's club. You have 4 women out of 109, which means you have 105 men. So it means what can 4 women do out of, the whole lot compared to 105? It means that women's voices cannot be heard. Women's voices, their perspectives that will enrich the conversations will not be heard, which means that whatever it is that women can bring to the table and do bring to the table, they are unable to bring to the table because the laws are not implemented. The laws are, it's as if we do not have the laws. Each political party has a gender policy. They do not make use of their gender policy. They do not even make any reference to their gender policy. That is why within political parties, you will only find most of the time in their executive, you will only find a woman that is the woman leader. And that is the only position that woman will hold. So how is that one woman that is supposed to be working for women, how will that woman be able to function? So it's like, we just set women up to fail. We set Nigeria up to fail. So if we do not implement, we do not domesticate treaties. We have the protocol on the Maputo Protocol on the rights of women. that Nigeria signed on to. We ratified that in the year 2004. It has not been domesticated. We did not domesticate CEDAW. We did not, since 1985. We do not, but you have other laws, other treaties that Nigeria ratified. But because those ones do not have anything to do with women, those become law. Those become, those are integrated into our into our domestic laws, and we begin implementation. So, but we only have excuses. When people talk about the reasons, the barriers, the challenges, I just see excuses. Because if we do not have the political will to do right by Nigeria, we will continue to foot drag. We will continue to, want women to grovel. We will want women to keep running from pillar to post, because we really, really, truly do not care about Nigeria. Leaders who care about Nigeria will put the interest of women at the center of the conversations, because we know that when we have women in every country, when you go around the world, you see that the countries where women are included, they are at the table, those countries, they prosper. In 2022, I led a research in 10 African countries. I was ashamed because I led that research. We had researchers from 10 other countries, and Nigeria was at the bottom. I almost wept, because for me, it speaks volumes to say a country that is seen as the giant of Africa. We keep saying it. I don't know, maybe a giant from the rear, but we keep saying we are the giant of Africa. We have the highest GDP, we have this, we have that, we have multimillionaires, we have billionaires, we have, but the thing is, we're not making progress. And until we bring women to the table and make sure their voices are heard, we will continue to be on one spot.
All right.
I'll stop there.
Right. Let's come back to the studio here now, and I'll just bring up another tweet here I would like you to comment on. And this is by Ifoma. It says, why can't Nigerians learn from other countries that have successfully implemented gender quotas in politics? Some countries have. Why can't Nigeria just borrow a leaf from those countries?
Exactly.
What's peculiar here to us that, look, some countries have done it, but we can't do it in Nigeria because of what?
The only reason is, like my sister just spoke, lack of political will. Because we have all the laws in place, all the treaties, we have been signatories to some of the conventions, the treaties. It's just for us to have the political will for implementation. There's no political will in this country. But like I said, there's light at the end of the tunnel, since the apex bodies have started talking about reserving, sponsoring bills about having reserved seats. That is the hope we have now.
How much of the support of the traditional institution have we garnered here? Because, as you say, some would want to hide under the guise of traditions and culture and such things. So the traditional institutions in this country would be a force to help drive this. How much of the support have you garnered?
Yes, we will not be. I'm not in the right position to say how much support we have gathered from the traditional rulers, but as far as I'm concerned, the Ministry of Women Affairs Nigeria is working very hard on advocacy. Very soon, the bill, before it is passed, we have to do public hearing, and you cannot be seen to go into public hearing without you going around to canvass for support. And traditional institution is one place that the ministry is taking its advocacy to, so that we can gather support during this passage of this bill, so that we have a smooth ride for the passage of this bill.
You have a major stake in this. Of course, you're DG of Center for Women's Development, yes. And this is about making sure that women can contribute their quota to the development of this country. How far would you go with this drive?
That's what I'm saying. My agency, which is the Madam Babangida National Center for Women Development, is an agency under the Ministry of Women Affairs. It is a collective responsibility. It is on us to go and advocate, to canvass for support from all quarters. As we are talking, as the National Assembly is sponsoring this bill, the ministry is poised to going out on serious campaign to make sure that this bill is passed. And our greatest happiness and luck is that it is a man this time around that is sponsoring the bill. That is the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives. So it makes it easier for him to now gather support from his male counterparts, because like we have been talking, we only have 17 women in the House of Representatives out of 360 male House of Reps members. In the Senate wing, we have only 4 women out of 109 senators. So if we go by the voting system, definitely we are going to lose out again, just as we lost the other 5 gender bills in the previous assembly, which is the next assembly. So definitely my ministry, that is the Ministry of Women Affairs, headed by a very, very dynamic lady, Honorable Iman Suleiman, is taking the bull by the horn. We are going to take the campaign down to the grassroots level to make sure that this time around, this reserve seat bill is passed.
Dr. Otiwe Buzo, change, you say, is an uphill task. And it wouldn't be easy. You're taking this right down to the subnationals as well as the assemblies right there.
Yeah.
So we're looking at the strategies you're going to adopt to this. How would you take this fight right to the doorsteps of all those who might want to resist?
Well, Nigeria is a huge country, and if it has taken us over 100 years to get to where we are, to have 4 women out of 109 women in Senate, you can imagine that if we wait to do everything by advocacy, by lobbying, by appealing to people's sensibilities, to take maybe 200 years to get to where we want to be. I see legislation as a veritable channel to correct what has gone wrong. You can't rule a country on people's perceptions, people's beliefs. We have our constitution, and if there's a constitutional amendment that provides for these reserved seats that we're talking about tonight, the National Assembly will comply, the states will comply. So law is a veritable channel by which we can correct, long years of marginalization, all the wrongs, that have been done. If the Electoral Act, for example, states that every political party, when you submit your nomination forms, X% of your nominees should be female or male, everybody will comply. If you don't comply, there are consequences. Your nominations will be rejected. So a country that is ruled by laws will always succeed. It's easy to make corrections. But I heard you talk about traditional rulers, and I say yes, that's also very important. Traditional and religious leaders need to join forces with everyone. In fact, if we understand the benefits of having women in governance, then we will know that it's not just a fight for women or for female activists. It is something on which everyone should raise their voices and converge efforts. I look forward to the day when NLC will march, for example, and say, because we want women included, or a certain law passed to ensure that, the wrongs that have been done to Nigerian women, are corrected, simply because they understand that when this is corrected, the entire nation benefits. But I can't say that everything has been in vain. So there are parts of the country where advocacy and lobbying with traditional and religious leaders have yielded some results. So, for example, in the Southeast, we hear that in some communities where traditional leaders did not include women in their cabinets, because of some work of NGOs in those communities, at the last count, sometime last year, somebody mentioned that there were 32 new chiefs that have been sworn in, appointed into traditional cabinets that were exclusively male cabinets. So it's happening gradually. And I know that several organizations like UN Women, Ford Foundation, they are engaging, the national traditional councils, where you have the powerful traditional rulers and some powerful religious rulers, you know, engaging on the issues of gender equality. Of course, many of them would not want to call it gender equality. They want to call it gender equity. And for me as an expert, I know that when you achieve equity, then you are driving towards equality, which is the goal. So whether you call it gender equity, there's another group called the Side-by-Side Movement. It's a group of faith leaders who have Christians and Muslims working together to achieve what they call gender justice. So it's not like nothing is happening, but Nigeria is huge, and for you to harvest, you know, holistic results, it's going to take time. But what I always say is that as we work with traditional rulers to interpret the religious books correctly, because what we have seen so far is misinterpretation of the religious books, where people say, oh, the Bible says this and the Quran says that. Whereas when you meet with the experts, when they explain to you, you find that that was actually a gross misinterpretation. As we do all of that, if this assembly wants to write their name in gold and pass this reserve seat bill, it will go down in history, because it's going to automatically correct long years of marginalization. And forever and ever, we'll be talking about this assembly as the assembly that did the magic for Nigeria. And remember that we said it's a temporary measure. We're not saying forever and ever this is how it's going to be. But when you manage to empower some women and bring them into the room, and they are parts of decision-making and all of that, gradually, Nigerian women will become empowered. You see the case in Rwanda. Right now, I don't think anybody needs special measures in Rwanda, because women are even topping, you know, the bill. You know, 61% in the lower house, for example. You know, so this is something that is doable. One layer at a time, but law. And that is where legislators come in. Legislators cannot shy away from this, because apart from every other thing, they have the power of the purse also. And when the president makes nominations, who is it that approves those nominations? It is the legislators. When a governor makes nominations, who is it that approves nominations? It's the legislators. So I see legislature as a veritable force if they really want to write their names in gold. And I am worried. Why do you contest election and go to the National Assembly or the State Assembly and become a lawmaker, become powerful, if your intention is not to facilitate change that will benefit the people? At the end of your tenure, I'm speaking to legislators here, as many as care to listen. At the end of your tenure, what will you say you have achieved? Are you going to count the number of people from your village who you placed on government salary, many of whom are doing? Are you going to shine and say it was during my tenure that many years of marginalization of Nigerian women has been corrected? One law will do the magic. Thank you.
All right. Okay. And let's go along and say this bill is passed. And this is for Yeyebumi. It's not just the end of the story. It is a step in correcting this imbalance that's been there for 100 years or more. So this bill is passed and the seats are reserved. What next?
Well, thank you so much for that question. We've been looking forward to a day like this, that we'll be talking about the seats. And when we now have the seats, it will now be up to the electoral umpire to ensure that it is implemented. Because we have so many women at state and national level, state level, who really want to contribute to Nigeria, but they do not have the opportunity. Now this is the opportunity. Women have been sensitized. We have enhanced the leadership capabilities of women. We have, exposed them to so many things over the years. And, when the bill is passed and assented to, now that will be the day for us, Nigerian women, because we have so many politicians, so many aspiring politicians who are discouraged by what is happening right now. They really don't want to go into that terrain because they are asking, what is in it for us? Because the women that are there now, what are they getting? But now this will encourage more women to come in, to also begin the process, to begin to participate. It's also going to be a new dawn because as we speak, we have about 14 or 15 state legislatures that they do not have a single woman. So when this is legislated at the national level, it means that it's going to trickle down to the state level. It means that we would begin to hold our states accountable, to our state governments accountable, because laws are also made at the levels of the state for women and men in those states. So it means that when this hurdle is passed, when we have this law, when it's passed into law, then we will move to the state levels and to the local government levels to ensure that Nigerian women, wherever they are, they have a sense of belonging. They have a sense of being full citizens, and they can contribute to the growth of Nigeria. Because when this is passed, it's not even if. I'm not talking about if now. I'm looking at when this happens. And I'm hoping, I'm crossing my fingers that this will happen very soon, so that in 2027, we will now have scores of women in government, at the National Assembly. And that will also, the law will motivate the states to also have more women. We'll have younger women who have something to look forward to, who have role models, who have mentors, who will be at the National Assembly. We will have a National Assembly where women are not looking like flies on a glass of milk, because that is what we have right now. At the National Assembly is a glass of milk, and we just have women like flies, and then you can see the difference in the colorings. So when this happens very soon, it means that we will have the Nigeria of our dreams. It means that we will have different perspectives. It means that we will have a strengthened democracy. It means that we will have more women, more young women, and more women even at the grassroots level, aspiring to go represent their senatorial district, their federal constituencies, and we really cannot wait.
All right.
It gives me joy, and it's going to be the joy of my life.
All right. I'll have to, at this point, thank you very much, Yeye Bumidiko Salami, Development Strategist and Executive Director of Baobab for Women's Human Rights. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation again. I recall
My
that
pleasure.
you were part
Thank
of it
you
a
so
couple
much.
of weeks back. Thank you for being part of it again.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Dr. Ejiro Joyce Otibe Buzo, MDCU, Emerald International Development Services Limited. It's been nice having you as part of this conversation. Thank you very much for your contributions and your thoughts here. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. And back here in the studio, Honorable Asabe Velita Bashir, DG Mariam Babangida, National Center for Women Development, who has been out there and has challenged these concepts and even made inroads, and we'd like to thank you. And just a final word from you.
Thank you very much. Well, I want to toe the line of my sisters. I'm looking forward for a day that this bill will be passed, and that will be a day that all Nigerians are looking out for, and it will be a time that Nigerian women will have a sigh of relief and come out to participate fully in political leadership, inshallah.
All right. Thank you so much.
God bless. Thank you.
And that's our program. I'd like to thank you for being part of it. Next week, we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stover. Bye for now.